92.7 Urban Lifestyle Radio Station.
Morning, welcome to the 6 a.m. news here. We're coming to you live from Adishawi, Kanda. This news is live on 3FM and across our various social media platforms. Coming up this morning, security analyst says military response in recent Boko tension is justifiable but excessive.
I don't think anybody should, in the first instance, blame the military. Although the military has to admit that it also exceeded I don't think anybody should, in the first instance, blame the military. Although the military has to admit that it also exceeded
Also, security analysts call for the arrest of all election violence perpetrators, including politicians.
Usually, it is the politicians who bastardize the police and create problems for the.
And much later, political analyst says the new patriotic party must listen to its elders.
Who bastardize the police?
Rather better for the good men of the party to come out and say what they need to say. Rather better for the good men of the party to come out and say what they need to say.
We have details of these and other stories. Please stay with us. I am Enyonam Haligah. The details now. Retired security analyst Colonel Festus Abuaji says the recent military action in Boku was justified in returning fire under the rules of engagement, though their response went too far. This follows the tension in the conflict-prone area after an alleged military brutality meted out to civilians by the military. Now, the incident is said to be reprisal after a team of armed men attacked a military convoy that was escorting some travelers through the Boku township, injuring at least 2 personnel. Yard starts, although the military operates under legal authority, they must acknowledge that their use of force exceeded what is applicable and acceptable in the democratic context.
The understanding is that the armed forces is not enrolled to conduct classical military operations in a democracy internally. I don't think anybody should, in the first instance, blame the military. Although the military has to admit that it also exceeded the limits or the threshold of the force that it was allowed or was permissible to be used. So going forward, all of us need to understand that the military has been deployed under legal authority to go and assist the government to control the situation in Boku. An attack on the military is an attack on the state.
You heard the voice of retired security analyst Colonel Festus Abuaji. Now, security expert Richard Kumado says it is time for perpetrators of the electoral violence are arrested no matter what they do and who they are. He was reacting to the chaos that erupted during the rerun of the parliamentary elections at 19 polling stations in the Ablekuma North constituency. According to him, blaming only security forces while ignoring political actors who he says often incite trouble has been a long-standing problem that must change.
Definitely, I agree that we need to hold him accountable for whatever he says. What we can do predominantly is that the next time Attorney General holds a press conference, and this case did not make it to the press conference, we will need to find space and ask him the outcome of the investigation. Or anytime the CID boss hold a press conference, and this particular case did not make it, we need to find space and access. And I think that update will also help. But let's hope that this time around, perpetrators will be arrested, irrespective of whoever they are. And after, guess what? You know, in every election, the police have a role to play, and the politicians have a responsibility to discharge. All of us who vote together with the Electoral Commission, we have a function to undertake. Usually, it is the politicians who bastardize the police and create problems for the state and create issues when it comes to elections. Why is nobody talking about the politicians in this particular equation? Why is nobody saying that go after the politicians who might have engineered this or benefit from this partially or fully or actively or whatever? Nobody is talking about that. And that has been a negative attitude we've had in this country for many years. That we always look left instead of looking right, and we blame somebody else apart from ourselves. And I think that attitude will need to change. All elections we have in this country and the troubles that associated with it, yes, law enforcement lapses, but predominantly it has been politicians who bastardize the place with their negative attitude, and that must be changed.
That was security aspect Richard Kumadu there. Now to some political stories. Political analyst Dr. Samuel Edu-Jemfi says it is important for long-respected 7 members of the New Patriotic Party to speak up, rather than let a few individuals hijack the party for their personal interests. He wants that sidelining experienced voices like the former president before weakens the party's future and risk losing the wisdom needed to guide its direction.
Rather better for the good men of the party to come out and say what they need to say than to allow for some few bad people to hijack the party to do their personal bidding and business. Fundamentally, I think that he draws our attention back to history, which most Ghanaians try to overlook because they think that it lies within the realm of the archive or it is within the domain of anachronism. But fundamentally, he draws our attention to institutional memory. He himself, as a working institution of the party, he shares what he's been through, his knowledge of the party from 1947. If I'm not mistaken, then it's spanning about 8 years plus. In that regard, the party is older in terms of its existence than several members who are part of it.
Political analyst Dr. Samuel Edu-Jemfi there. Now, on the health front, 141 COVID-19 cases have so far been confirmed within the University of Ghana community. COVID-19 protocol remain active within the university as authorities strive to contain the spread. Now, the Director of Public Health at the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Franklin Asiedu-Bekoin, has been speaking to the media.
We need to understand that COVID-19 has come to stay. So we need to learn to live with the disease. So, and I think it's a very important point. You know, when, let's say, 2020, it came as like a new disease, a novel disease. So the interventions were different. Lockdowns, aggressive interventions. But since about almost like 2 years now, it's supposed to be seen as an endemic condition. Do you understand? So then the approach is a bit different for now. So what is happening is that if you look at the Legon case, now I think we have about 141 cases, but they are all mild cases because typically it will present like a flu. Yes, and so cough, fever, sore throat, and things like that. So as we said in our release, when you are in a very enclosed place, do you understand? Then we think that you need to wear a mask where the ventilation is poor. Do you understand? And then make sure that when you are coughing and you are sneezing, you go to health facility. And then also make sure you practice what we call cough etiquette. And for now, we may get a vaccine, but it's not really the issue. A lot of people have already been exposed to the virus in the past, so they have the antibodies. So I want us to, as far as possible, if you have an underlying medical condition, let's say diabetes, hypertension, or you are immunosuppressed, you are elderly, then you are at a higher risk. But then apart from that, the other Ghanaian, you can be exposed to the virus, but make sure that you go to health facilities early. No, so we've made an engagement with the schools. The protocols never stopped. Yes, I always wash my hands with soap and running water. And I think that it's an intervention we need to adopt as a Ghanaian.
That was Director of Public Health at the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Franklin Asiedu-Bekoin. Now, before we go, vehicular movement at the Paga border in the Kasina-Nankana West District came to a complete halt as angry drivers, majority of whom are Burkina Base, protested police harassment and the rising insecurity on the northern highways. The peaceful protesters stranded cargo traveling between Ghana and Burkina Faso, creating a major gridlock. My colleague Christian Castro Singela was at the Paga border and reports.
Businesses came to a grinding halt at the Paga Inland Port as over 100 vehicles heading to neighboring Burkina Faso and those entering Ghana were grounded during a dramatic peaceful protest by drivers. For nearly 6 hours, the angry but peaceful drivers gathered at the port's entrance to voice out their concerns over police mistreatment and the rising insecurity on the northern highways.
Police for no doors so by security no poor. Nti on say Paga to Temano barriers no wontime kan barriers no do. But time be problems nkwa but say ya ko twetwa obi ti sekan na no enura ya se enura chi o ma kum driver ni ya wo wulugu ha ya edekono.
That was a report by my colleague Castro Sanyala. That's our first package for this morning. For more news, please check our website at 3news.com. Business News comes right up. It's now time for business news here on Sunrise 3FM 92.7. Coming up this morning, the Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders Lord's President's move to streamline port charges, while the Ghana Union of Traders Association anticipates a drop in prices.
You can't just run routes with fees. They create all sorts of fees.
We're going to bring some relief to the consuming public. Very soon you will see the price of goods and services coming down in the country.
Also, Economic Governance Platform lays bare Ghana's debt deficiencies, citing fiscal discipline and weak procurement.
And the source of the debt accumulation, you will find it from low revenue generation and high expenditure. Most often, when we acquire those debts, we don't utilize them efficiently.
And much later, the Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies projects fuel prices to go up by 10% from tomorrow as the 1 Ghana cedi energy levy takes effect.
For the next window, we are expecting roughly 8 to 10% increase in fuel prices.
We have details of our headline stories and other stories. Please stay with us. Now to our first story, the Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders has commended President John Dramani Mahama for taking decisive steps to regulate the operation of shipping lines in the country. Now, industry players have long raised concerns over the conduct of shipping lines in Ghana, particularly the imposition of arbitrary fees and charges. Over the weekend, President Mahama directed the Attorney General and the Minister of Finance to develop policies aimed at curbing these practices and bringing more oversight to the sector. Now, speaking on business focus, the immediate past president of the Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders, Eddie Akropong, praised the president's intervention, stating that the move is a significant step towards restoring order and fairness within the shipping and logistic industry.
He took out the cheers. We were given the thumbs up were given to the president when he made the pronouncement, and so we are really, really excited about this one, and we're going to follow through, and we believe this will be done. Like he said, of course, it is, you can't just run routes with fees. I mean, they create all sorts of fees. You should see some of these invoices, and it would amaze you the kind of thing you see, like ISPS charges, their security fees, they create all sorts of, line items on their invoices. And so I think with the president's pronouncement, there should be some decency brought to the situation.
That was the immediate past president of the Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders, Eddie Akron, there. Meanwhile, the Ghana Union of Traders Association, GUTA, has also welcomed the move, indicating that it would bring more predictability and create a business-friendly environment for traders. Speaking business focus, the Director of Communications for GUTA, Joseph Paddy, further indicated that should the law regulate the activities of shipping line come to light, consumers should expect prices of goods and services to decline further.
Obviously, it will bring stability of price of goods and services. Unlike the escalation every day, every week, you see instability in the prices. We are going to see stability, and we are going to see we're going to bring some relief to the consuming public. And you are going to see very soon. You will see the price of goods and services coming down in the country. But there are other concerns that the business community also is complaining about. That in recent times, some of them travel out there, and then they get to wherever they want to go. And then their foreign exchange is still not in. So we're going to find out from Bank of Ghana why some of these challenges is going on.
Okay.
Yes. So
still on it, you said you needed about 2 months to begin to drop prices drastically.
Which we have.
You are entering the second month, just for that.
But even before then, we've seen, one, stability of price of goods and services, and two, we've seen some drastic reduction.
Okay.
Because I made some research, I as far as Kumasi, to find out price of goods and services. And a woman who used to sell a boxer shorts, a bale of a boxer shorts, the one the men wear, it used to be 4,800.
Okay.
Now it has dropped to about 3,200.
That was Director of Communications for GUTA, Joseph Paddy, there. Now, a new report released by the Economic Governance Platform has laid bare the underlying structural deficiencies of the country's debt landscape, highlighting fiscal indiscipline, weak procurement system, and a lack of transparency as central to the country's deepening debt crisis. There's more in the following report.
The study revealed that Ghana's fiscal policy is highly pro-cyclical, influenced by commodity and electoral cycles, with significant fiscal slippages around election periods. This has left the economy with limited buffers to absorb external shocks like the COVID-19 pandemic and the Russia-Ukraine war. The report put together by the Economic Governance Platform shows expenditure overruns. Economist Professor Godfrey Buckpin said the trends have reinforced the country's dependence on borrowing and deepened its debt burden.
We have not been prudent in the management of our debt. And the source of the debt accumulation, you will find it from low revenue generation and high expenditure. Most often, when we acquire those debts, we don't utilize them efficiently and prudently in creating assets, or we don't spend them in the productive sectors of the economy. So the economy's ability then to sustain that debt becomes questionable.
Executive Director of the Economic Governance Platform, Abdul Karim, said weaknesses in the procurement regime have further exacerbated the problem.
The most important aspect is the pragmatic recommendations that, if we follow through, will help us to go a long way in addressing the challenges that we have had as a country, so that we avert the cyclical debt-induced economic crisis that we have faced as a country.
Now, that was a report on Economic Governance Platform blaming Ghana's debt crisis on fiscal indiscipline and weak procurement. Fuel prices in Ghana are anticipated to rise significantly starting July 16, 2025, coinciding with the commencement of the second pricing window for petroleum products and the long-awaited implementation of the One Ghana Cedi Energy Sector Shortfall and Debt Recovery Levy. The energy sector watchers in the country's downstream petroleum industry point to the new levy as a primary driver behind the projected increase. The levy, which has been subject to which has been subject to 2 prior suspension, is now set to take effect, adding a Ghana cedi to every liter of fuel sold.
This development comes as Ghana grapples with an estimated energy sector shortfall projected to reach $2.2 billion by December 2025, according to the International Monetary Fund, IMF. Executive Director of SEMSI, Benjamin Nsia, is of the view the 1 cedi levy will lead to price increase at the local pumps in the upcoming pricing window.
If prices escalate beyond the 14 Ghana cedis per litre, it defeats their argument that prices were around 15 Ghana cedis per litre and had dropped to somewhere around 12 Ghana cedis per litre, and that is the justification for the introducing the 1 Ghana cedis, because if it exceeds 14 Ghana cedis, that means that the argument of consumer surplus, based on which the 1 Ghana cedis is introduced, is being defeated.
Chief Executive Officer of Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies, COMAC, Dr. Rivasinopon, noted palm prices are expected to increase.
For the next window, we are expecting roughly 8 to 10% increase in fuel prices. We are looking around, say, 7 to 8% increase in petrol, which is the PMS, and around 10% increase in diesel. And obviously, it's because of the tax.
SEMSI argues any upward fuel price adjustments due to the 1 cedi level will not be in good faith for commercial drivers.
And I think that it is likely going to lead to certain agitations, especially from commercial transport operators and other petroleum users. In the coming days, I think the government, the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Energy should critically look at the data when it comes to prices of these products on the international market and simulate whether it is feasible to implement it on the system. If it's not feasible, I think we need to push it until times that prices are a bit stable or prices begin to decline.
That was a report on consumers being urged to brace for the fuel hikes as the new levy commences tomorrow, July 16, 2025. Let's take a look at how the cedi is faring against major trading currencies and how some key commodities are also faring on the global markets.
On the interbank foreign exchange markets, the dollar is selling at 10 cedis, 40 pesewas. It lost a pesewa. The British pound is selling at 14 cedis. It lost 7 pesewas. The euro is selling at 12 cedis, 17 pesewas. It recorded no price change. However, be guided that these figures could be higher at a forex bureau near you. On the global commodities markets, Brent crude is trading at $69.40 per barrel. It lost 96 cents. Gold is trading at $3,349 per ounce. It lost 7 pesewas. Cocoa is trading at $8,270 per ton, up by $93.
That was an update on the forex and commodities markets. That will be all for business news here on Sunrise 3FM 92.7. For more news, please check our websites at 3news.com. I am Enyonam Haligah.